Hi, my name is Elle Billing. I am a chronically ill queer femme, and I'm tired. I'm here this episode and every episode to dig at the roots of our collective fatigue, explore ways to direct our care in compassionate and sustainable ways, and harness creative expression to heal ourselves and our world. And welcome to HURF, Radical Care in a Late Capitalist Hexscape.
Hi, it's Ricky again doing the intro. Elle's guest this week is Dextra Hoffman. Dextra Hoffman is an artistic force of nature living in Lexington, Kentucky. She's been a portrait artist, comic book nerd / lover / artist, singer, actor, social media menace, pioneer in human cloning, the original overly attached goth girlfriend, and the goddamn bat bitch. She's been cursed with an interesting life and has been doing her best to survive and thrive, if only out of spite. You can find her and her work at patreon.com/Dextra. Welcome, Dextra Hoffman.
Hi, welcome to HURF.
Hello, I am glad to be here.
I'm so excited. You've been on our list forever. Yay.
I know, and I've been waiting for this moment.
Yeah, like I think between me and Ricky, like you knew that eventually one of us would ask you to do this. So,
Oh yeah, no, I think Ricky and I talked about it a while back, but yeah, definitely something that I wanted to do ever since you
good.
started.
I'm so glad. It was one of the easiest asks, I think. It was like, text you, do you want to do this? Yes. Can you do it this week? Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I will send you questions.
When do you need me?
like yesterday.
Like I can make things happen.
So great. And it's good to see you. Our listeners don't get the videos, but like we actually see each other while we're chatting and recording. And it's, we talk often, but not usually by video. So it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah, I've actually started video chatting with some of my friends more lately. It's mostly my local friends because we all have jobs and busy lives and whatnot, and we have started abusing the video chat function on a Sims kind of app called Bunch, and it has a video chat function, so we all get on there and get in our little group chats and just hang out. It's kind of nice because we're all in our between 30 and 50, so it's easy to just chill at home and just talk shit with your friends.
Yeah, I was in an art mentoring group a while back and we used Marco Polo, which was good because I think the only one in Central Time and everybody else was on the East Coast, and I don't get up in the morning. And so I'd wake up in the morning, I have like 12 messages. I'm like, oh, it's so great that everybody got to do this while I was in bed. But I didn't realize, I know I talk a lot, but I didn't realize like how long I talk at one time until there was a timer that was recording me. I was like, I need to break this up into smaller chunks. So asynchronous video chatting was, I think, good for my self-awareness, but also good for the fact that like it's really difficult for people our age, especially a lot of them had kids. I don't have kids, but I have Nancy. Just because when do you get together to talk? It's really difficult. But
yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. And I know like I'll be at work some days, and because I work a 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 in my case. And like I'll see people like, this person's online, and it'll be like most of my friends are all online, but I'm sitting at work, so I can't get on, and I just get like a huge case of FOMO.
What am I missing?
Are they talking about me? No, I know they're not.
If we are, it's only good stuff, like how awesome you are.
Yeah.
I think I turned my phone on silent and it still buzzed, and it came across as a whale fart, and it wasn't supposed to do that. Okay. It turned it. Yeah,
I did not hear that.
Well, I did. I'm just like hyper aware of like the sounds that come through.
Yeah.
because Ricky hears them more than I do. Like, I don't always notice them, and then Ricky will say, "Oh, this was a tough one to edit." I was like, "Really? I thought I did pretty good this time." But there
Mm.
were sounds in the background that I didn't notice. So that's why I'm not the editor.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, I've done some video editing in the last couple of weeks for work, and yeah, that's a definite skill that I am probably not going to pursue.
Yeah, the only video editing I really did before having to do it for reels and stuff was with my students, and they're all deaf, so we would just, like, take the sound out,
That makes it so much easier.
right? It's like there doesn't need to be sound, which did help a lot, actually, because, deaf schools are not quiet places. There's always noise everywhere,
Oh, I'm sure.
which surprises people. So I guess I'm gonna just hop in with my first question,
Sure.
which is the first question I ask everybody. How have you received care this week?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, mostly I live alone, so I
Mhm.
care for myself more than anybody else because obviously I have to. Nobody else is going to do it for me. So, one of the things that I really love about my job is that I am around lovely essential oil scents all day long. Like, I come home smelling like a spa. And that, and just the fact that I work for a small business and I get to be right next to where this stuff is made, it actually has turned this into one of the best jobs I've ever had. Like, I feel lovely going into work. I don't get anxious like I used to at my previous jobs. And also, I get take a lot of free product home. um,
Incredible.
like, you see those boxes on the floor?
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
that's full of stuff. You're getting a box. Um,
Oh, yay. I
yeah,
love that stuff. I have some from one of the Good Morning America sales we
yeah,
ran.
it's some more of that stuff.
Oh, I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I do share a bathroom with, well, the upstairs bathroom's my mom's bathroom and the downstairs bathroom's my dad's.
Hmm.
So, like, I do all my usual stuff upstairs, but I shower downstairs because I don't like stepping into a tub if I don't have to.
Yeah.
So, like, those shower
Shower bursts.
the shower bursts, whenever I use them, my dad's like, "You put one of those stinky things in the bathroom again." I'm like, "Yeah, but I feel so good."
Right? Yeah. I know. I've got a whole basket of offsets,
Mhm.
damaged goods in my bathroom because we can't sell them because they're too messy looking or whatever. So I get to
But they
bring
still
home
work.
freebies. Yeah, they still work just fine. They're just not as pretty as what we would put on a shelf.
Mhm.
But yeah, having all that helps. And then also, I've been putting reminders on my phone to, you know, remind me to do things to take care of myself. Like, I have to remind myself, take a shower, or maybe you should eat a food. Because, yeah, the ADHD kicks in and I get into like a tunnel when I'm
Mhm.
at home and I'm on my computer or I'm drawing or whatever, and I'll just completely forget. And this is a problem with that because I have ADHD and I also have diabetes. So I forget to eat. And then the next thing I know, my blood sugar is starting to drop really low and I'm feeling like crap. So
Mhm.
I have to do that so that I remember to do those things to take care of myself.
Yeah, that I'm not diabetic, but I have the issue of ADHD making other things I have worse.
Hmm.
So where for you, it's the ADHD means you get hyper focused on the thing you really want to be doing, and it
Right.
means that you forget to eat, which means it triggers like diabetic issues for you.
Right. Basically, my blood sugar drops and then I have to remedy that quickly or, I'll black out, which is not good. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's taken me a long time to figure that out, because the ADHD is a kind of a self-defeating condition to have, especially if you have other chronic illnesses. Because
Yes.
I mean, you know,
Yes.
you know very well.
Yeah, because for me, it makes everything else worse. And I have PMDD.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the combination of ADHD and PMDD is awful. It's so bad.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I'm a different person, and we've now after 25 years of hell with my menstrual cycle, like, we have it mostly livable.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm still a crazy person, and I don't use that as, like, an ableist, like, "Oh, isn't that so crazy?" No, like, I am more mentally ill between ovulation and menstruation than I am during the rest of the month,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
because ADHD amplifies
Oh
all of
yeah.
that stuff.
For
And, like, as
sure.
soon as I get my period, it's like, "Oh, I'm me again."
Yeah. Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it
Happens to
makes
me
my
too.
migraines worse, it makes my fibro worse, and
Yeah.
then people who menstruate, like, we're often not diagnosed with ADHD
Right.
early or correctly or at all, and so we live with this hell
Exactly.
until we're adults and we're like, "Oh."
Yeah, because like my brother and I were 2 years apart, and I remember when we were very young. Probably, I think I was in kindergarten or first grade. My brother was, preschool. He got diagnosed with ADHD at like the age of 4, and I did not get diagnosed with ADHD until I was in my 30s.
Mhm.
So I have a little bit of resentment about that, not towards my brother, but just
Right.
towards the fact that they didn't identify ADHD in girls, like because it presents so differently in girls and other, with other people who menstruate. But yeah, it is a interesting experience to know that what it's like when one group of people is treated a certain way and another group of people with the same condition are treated a different way just because of body circumstances.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, so my brother's ADHD was taken seriously, and I was just lazy and disorganized, and I didn't care. I'm just remembering like all of the things on report cards that teachers would write,
Mhm.
and
You had great
oh
potential.
God, I hate that word so much.
Yeah. Yep.
I hate that word so much. Like whenever I get praise and somebody says you have such great potential to do more, I'm just like, no, no, please no.
I
You're giving me so many flashbacks right now because I was also a gifted kid when I was in elementary school, so I got to skip over to the high school a couple days a week and do classes over there. So I was expected to do basically double the workload because I had some high test scores at one point
Mhm.
in my life, and they also recognized that I had some artistic aptitude, and they wanted to push that for me. And so hearing the word potential especially reminds me of that time, which was very
Yep.
stressful and not something I would ever do to a child. So because like I have twins, you know this.
Mhm.
They're adults now, but when they were in kindergarten, first grade, I remember being asked by their teachers if I was interested in including them in a gifted program, and I was like, no, I would rather not. I know that they are a little advanced for their age, but I feel like it's important for them to have the same experience that other kids have.
Mhm.
And
I totally get that.
I didn't want that kind of undue stress and pressure to be on them. And they I know I talked to them about it since then and they were both totally fine with it. So,
Woohoo.
yay. And my daughter actually graduated with a business degree last month. And she was also like president of her sorority and leader and co-founder of a couple of campus groups, and like she's such an overachiever, and I'm glad that she is, but she did it on her own.
Right, she didn't need a gifted program to do that.
Right, right.
So you mentioned that they recognized your artistic aptitude when you were young,
Hmm.
and we actually met because of a piece of artwork
Right.
that I saw on Facebook and then purchased, which was fan art of Dr. Dr. Jillian Holtzman
Yes.
from Ghostbusters 2016. And we turns out we share a love for Kate McKinnon.
Oh, yes.
And by love, I mean thirst.
Yes. My future ex-wife.
Oh, yeah. Get in line.
Right? We can share. It's fine.
So, yeah, no, yeah, we share well, actually.
Yeah, we do.
So can you tell us a bit about your creative practice? Actually, other people won't see this, but I see a bunch of your artwork on the wall behind you. I see
Yeah.
David Bowie. I see the 12th Doctor.
Yeah, and River.
And River Song.
Yeah.
Those are the other ones have some glare on them.
Yeah, the other ones are not mine, just those two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't have as much of my art up in here as I do other people. Because I see my stuff all the time. I like to see other artists' work around me so that I have a little bit of inspiration. So yeah. So my artistic process, is that what you were asking?
Or your art practice?
Just my practice.
What do you do? What do you do?
So I mostly these days I do a lot of portraits. Mostly, I do very photorealistic digital painting. I mean, I also draw on paper and paint on canvases and all of that when time and finances allow. But I mostly work digitally. I use actually, I'll show you. I've got it right here. I have a Wacom One tablet, and yeah, it just comes on. I've got a little thing that I was working on there. Has this handy dandy little pen stylus, and it is probably the best thing that I've bought since my first Wacom tablet, which I got back in 2010. And this was my upgrade a few years ago. So I draw on that, which for those of you at home is a drawing tablet with a screen that I draw on the screen directly.
Nice.
And actually, I found out by looking at tutorials with the thing, it's actually pronounced Wacom. Wacom.
That sounds like something Fozzie Bear would say.
Right. That's what I thought too.
Wacom. Yeah.
So yeah, I refer to it as my tablet anymore because I just think that's a silly word.
It is a silly word. Yep.
Yeah.
In my head I always said Wacom.
I did too for the longest time.
Yeah.
And I still do on occasion, but yeah, it's apparently pronounced Wacom.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Whatever. But yeah, I mostly draw on that. And then I used to do commissions. I'm not doing commissions right now. I still have a queue of commissions from way back that I'm still working through when I have time, which I have had very little of in the last year due to several things, as you're aware.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was what I was doing for a while. I was doing commissions. These days, I'm just drawing for myself at the moment, taking a little bit of time to get back into the swing of things because I was really out of the loop for a while due to in the last year, I have had bad living situation going from that to being temporarily homeless. And then after I get myself settled again, then I got thyroid cancer. So yeah, it was 2023 was not my year.
Yeah, it was a lot. It's nice to see you like in a stable, safe environment now again, and like able to just kind of relax.
Yeah. And also just kind of remembering who I am because, in my previous living situation, I just felt so beaten down and treated unfairly by the people I was living with. And I don't want to go too much into that, but
oh yeah, you don't have to.
Yeah, it was I was not doing my best during that time. Yeah. I did have a lot of mental health issues during that time, and I had to do my outpatient program for a few weeks in 2021.
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
Time is weird.
It is weird. No. Yeah, it was 2021. I was like, wait a minute. No, I don't know what years are anymore. COVID ruined
Yeah.
my sense of time.
I didn't have a very good sense of time to start with, and then COVID made it worse.
I know, yeah. All the isolation just made it so much worse. And
Mhm.
for like 2020, I was living alone, and I was also working from home because my company decided to send everybody home. And yeah, so I was mostly alone for an entire year. It was the worst. Like I saw a human being maybe like once every few weeks. The
Mhm.
rest of the time it was just people delivering things and leaving them at my door.
Yeah, and that was the isolation was it sucked, but it was also really important for you because you do have, like,
Yeah,
immune compromised situation with.
right. And I'm actually glad I was able to do that. And I actually avoided COVID altogether up until, yeah, just this past, about a year ago, just this past January.
Mhm.
It wasn't due to my actions. I can say that. I know that my old roommates brought it into the house, and
Mhm.
it, yeah, it was bad. Thankfully, I had already been vaccinated, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Right.
So I had a couple of really bad weeks though.
So in the time before, because that really is like such a huge demarcation
It
line for our
is.
entire society, really. We went to Comic Con
Yeah.
in Denver, and that was my second con, but the first one I dressed up for.
Yeah.
And
You looked
I dressed.
amazing.
I thank you. I dressed up as Holtzman,
Yep.
of
I
course.
was very happy
Um,
about that.
yeah, we took pictures. I'm gonna have to pull them out when we
Yeah,
advertise this
yeah.
episode. It was really fun though because you had a booth.
Yeah.
So I hung out with you at your merch table. People were geeking out about your art. I think the favorite, humorous wise, was probably the Thor and the Pikachu onesie.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That
That
one.
one was people really noticed that
Oh
one.
yeah, they noticed that one, especially because I had it stuck to a candle with glitter all over it.
Yes. And that's where I got the idea for my St. Winkus candles though, was like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, Winky needs to be on a
of
candle.
course.
Um so and while we were there, we talked a lot and I got to know more about like your background and how you got into comics and stuff.
Yeah.
Um would you be willing to talk about that a little bit? Maybe I don't know how far back you want to go. Maybe just the
Um
grandpa story?
yeah, let's just
Is
stick with
that
the
one
grandpa
okay?
story cuz yeah,
Yeah, that's fine. You don't have
yeah.
to get into the stuff.
Yeah, no, the industry stuff like I
Oh, no, not industry stuff, like, just
yeah.
your love of comics.
Oh
We'll
yeah,
go with
no,
that.
that's totally fine. Yeah. So, I learned to read at a very early age. I was about 3 years old when I first started to learn to read. And my grandfather was actually the one that taught me to read. With first, it was the newspaper comics, and then he would pick up just random comic books off the little spinny rack at the pharmacy or the drugstore. Because
Mhm,
we still like in the early 80s, we still had, the drugstore with the lunch counter and all of that. It was super cute, and I miss it because I remember getting lunch there all the time. But
mhm,
my granddad would often go look at the comic book rack and would grab me one occasionally. And I remember being with him. I was probably about 3 or 4 years old. We were at the drugstore, and I saw the spinning rack, and I ran up to it, and I was like, grabbing what I could reach, which was like the Archie comics down at the bottom of the rack where they always were. And, I was like, can I get? I really wanted it. And he's like, no, if you're going to read a comic book, you're going to read a real comic book. And I can't remember if it was an Avengers book or a Captain America book, but Captain America was featured on the cover. And so he grabbed that and he said, "You're getting one of these." And I was like, "Okay." I didn't care. But the reason why he grabbed that was because so my grandfather was in the army during World War II.
Mhm,
And prior to that, he had been working on farms in rural Kentucky. And he only had a first grade education because back then, work in the farm was more important than going to school.
yep,
So he had a first grade education, and then in his 20s, he went into the army, went off to fight in Europe, and during that time, the soldiers would all get, regular ration boxes, and sometimes they would get like extra treats, like, chocolate or cookies or comic books, other little items that they could use while they're out in the field. And a lot of times comic books would be included because, it was part of the war propaganda.
Mhm.
Captain America, while it was a comic book character, was also used to sell war bonds. So it was a very much a military propaganda kind of character, but that's beside the point. He's still iconic. And my granddad taught himself how to read with Captain America comics during the war because he and his buddies would, whoever was the most well read would read the comic aloud, and then they
Mhm.
all would have the same issue, so they could all read along together, and that's how they learned. And so when I started showing interest in reading when I was about 3, he was like, I can teach this kid how to read. And so he did.
Mhm.
And so ever since then, I've always had a really big attachment to Captain America. Even after my grandfather passed away when I was 14,
Mhm.
it's always been a big place in my heart. I've always had some kind of Captain America book or comic or merchandise around. And I have a tattoo on my wrist. You've seen it, I
Yep,
think.
I've seen
Yeah.
it.
It's a combination of Captain America and the Winter Soldier. And it says, with you till the end of the line underneath it. And my best friend and I have the same tattoo because we really bonded over Captain America and Winter Soldier. And also, we just kind of see ourselves in those roles.
Yeah.
Like Cap's always been my guy, Bucky's always been their guy. It's just interesting. I really just love all the, memories that I have attached to this character and how it can, the character can still be fluid and still do different things other than what I've, come to know of that character, and continue to grow and continue to do other things, and it's still always going to be relevant to me,
Mhm.
if no one else.
Right. I think it's interesting how, those important people in our lives end up influencing our artwork.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think that's true for a lot of artists.
Oh, definitely.
I for a long time I said I'm not a floral painter. I'm not a floral painter.
Hmm.
As soon as my grandma died, all I wanted to do was paint flowers.
Right.
And now, like I did a series last year that was all on like botanical symbolism.
You
It
know,
was like I can't get away from them. I can't get away from them.
I you
It's like
know I hate that. I hate that, but I love it also because
it's like okay, yep,
yeah, it's like
but
okay,
I'm
yeah,
still
we're
not a
doing
floral painter. Like I'm
yeah,
still not exclusively a floral painter, but they're always going to be there.
yeah. That's like I have phases where sometimes I get stuck on a certain style, like with my Bowie piece, the
Mhm.
white on black, or sometimes I'll get stuck in a certain intellectual property, like specific groups of Marvel characters, or a movie that I like, and I'll just work on that for weeks on end until I find my new obsession.
That's also the ADHD, I think.
That is too. It's that too, but yeah, like I did the 3 main characters from The Witcher in that
Mhm.
black and white style. And I still love going to Tumblr and looking at the Geralt of Rivia piece and just reading through the tags because people
Oh,
got
I know.
so mad.
This is too good.
This is witchcraft. How dare you? Like those are the kind of responses to art that I love. I love that. Like because I have a few artists that I follow that like I see their stuff and I just get instantly angry because like how dare you be so good? Like I just want to throw my pen away.
It's like, okay, fine, I'll be over here doing my thing and being good at that, but I still want to be as good as you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you also did I
Yeah.
remember you said the black and white, and as soon as you said that, I remembered the one of Carrie Fisher
Oh yeah. Yeah.
after she passed away in that same like glowing black
Yeah,
on white,
I
white
I
on
gave
black,
her I gave her eventually a blue glow, like Force Ghost.
force glow. Yeah,
Yeah, and
that one was
God, I've done a
gorgeous.
few like that. Like I did one of Chris Cornell as well because God, that man was talented. And yeah, I don't
Did you
know.
give him the force ghost too?
No, 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 no.
Oh, okay. I was like, really? He got the Force
No,
Ghost?
no,
I don't
no.
remember that. I remember the picture though.
Yeah. I'm trying to not do as many memorial portraits these days just because that takes a toll.
Yeah, it's really emotional.
It is. That's like, well, after my late boyfriend Mike, when he passed, I did that one really detailed portrait of him. And it took me months when, something like that, like with the Bowie portrait, that one, all in all, took me about 10 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But doing that portrait of Mike took 6 months just because I would open it up and sometimes I would literally just open up the file and immediately close it again. You know,
Like, nope, can't do that
I'm just
today.
like, nope, I can't. Or I would get 5 minutes in, and the next thing I know, I've got tears dripping down onto the tablet. And especially after I, kind of healed from, that grief and the trauma of that, his death. I wouldn't say I'm completely healed, but I am in a much better place with it than I was when it happened 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, doing things like that, even if you're not personally attached to a person. Like, I've never met David Bowie a day in my life, but that was still a hard piece to get through because I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I love his music and, I have a lot of good memories associated with it. So, I felt really sad that I was drawing that because I'm like, it's kind of like that regret you get when someone you really care for passes and you wish you had done more with them. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like that. Like, I wish I had done more art of him before he passed,
Yeah.
you know?
Some people have asked, because I'm in this caregiving situation with my mother and I live with my parents again. There's a lot of emotions. Like, well,
Mm-hmm.
do you do art about it? And I'm like, well,
Funny, you should say that.
I did do like a very meditative series on memory and dementia, but like I'd have to tell you that's what it was about.
Right.
Like it's very abstracted. It's rocks.
Yeah.
I did like 85 to 100 watercolor paintings of stones.
Wow.
Like you don't look at it and go, "Oh, yes, this is a meditation on memory." I
Right.
have to actually do the artist statement to say, "This is what I did when I was
Yeah.
thinking about things."
Well, I mean, I kind of do that as well.
Anything less abstract is too close.
Yeah.
Because I'm still living it.
Exactly. And you don't want to expose yourself that much as well. I feel like, especially if you go into too much detail about, why you're doing a piece, it kind of, I mean, it is good to be that vulnerable, but, maybe you don't want to necessarily share the deepest parts of your soul, but you want to give the feeling of it,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Like I was talking about that portrait of Mike, like I had a hard time with that one, but the piece that took me a long time and meant actually more to me than the Mike portrait did is 12th Doctor and River,
Mhm.
because I did that as kind of like my own personal tribute. Like, I do a lot of like pop culture art, but
Mhm.
sometimes it has a deeper meaning to me that I don't necessarily convey in the work itself. Like, the reason why I did the 12th Doctor and River Song portrait is because Mike and I, used to say to each other, "I hate you." No, you don't, all the time.
Mhm.
Just like he would be texting me like on Friday afternoon, like, "Are you here yet?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just now leaving the office." "I hate you." No, you don't. Just like things like that. So, like, when that episode, I think that was a Christmas special, but when that episode aired, it was probably about a year after he passed. No, it was that same year. And I saw that episode and I was just a mess because I was like, "Oh my God, that's what we said to each other." So that was kind of my own cathartic way of working through that.
Yep.
You can tell I put a lot of detail into that one. So, that was me spending a lot of time working out feelings and doodling a lot of hair.
Yeah.
A lot of hair. River Song has a lot of hair.
She does.
And, but it's therapeutic. It's kind of like the Geralt of Rivia piece I mentioned. I think when I posted it that I spent way too much time on that hair because like I literally drew every single strand one by
Mm-hmm.
one. And but it was therapeutic for me.
Right. Sometimes when you get into that flow state
Yeah.
and it's working, you just keep doing it.
Yeah, and it feels satisfying. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
like physical ASMR in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And also I can hear my pen making little soft scratches on my tablet at the same time.
Mm-hmm. That's how I feel about pulling like gel prints.
Yeah.
It's the rolling, the smoothing, and the peeling. It's just that repetitive. I get just like almost in a trance. And then
Yeah.
I use those for collage papers in my paintings.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
exactly what happens. Like, well, I call it tunnel vision, but yeah, it's a very focused state. And when I live with my old roommate, who is an author, they constantly had to bring me food and just set it on my desk and walk away because they knew I was in the zone and just.
yep.
And I would do the same for them. You know, one of us or the other would constantly be going up and down the stairs. Have you eaten today? No. Have you? I don't remember. Okay, yeah, we should probably go put some food in our faces before we die.
Yeah, I used to paint in silence because then my mind could go wherever it wanted to go, but then I realized I had no idea how much time was passing. So
Yeah.
I started making playlists. So I would start the playlist and then I would get to work and then I could figure out how long I'd been painting by what song it was on.
Hmm.
So then I wouldn't overdo it and then I would know how long I'd been working and if I needed to eat
That's
because
smart.
I would just get into that like super focused
Yeah,
because I have a hard time judging the passage of time anyway. And then when I'm really into a project, there's no way that I know.
right. I'm very much the same way. You know, I get the tunnel vision, and like I would come home from work at like 5:30 and sit down and start drawing at 7. And if I don't have some kind of cue to tell me to stop, I'll keep going till 3 a.m. because
Yep.
once I'm in the zone, there's no stopping it.
Like I can't do that anymore because the fatigue is too heavy all the
Oh
time.
yeah.
But I'll overdo it. Like anything more than 2 or 3 hours, and then I'll feel it the next day or two. I won't be able to do
Oh
anything.
yeah, I do too. Like I can't. I should not be doing that
Yeah,
for sure.
I have to limit myself. I have to stop before I think I'm done.
Yeah, I'll end up, staying up too late, and the next day I'm miserable because I probably have to get up and go to work, and then have to go through the day just being a groggy mess, and then I'll probably also be sore because I start drawing the lower I get.
Power pose.
Oh yeah, my neck
I
will be jacked.
when we like I started out my first real art, like art was sewing. My mom taught me to sew starting when I was 7 and we did what we called the power hunch.
Yeah,
Like it doesn't actually make the sewing machine go faster,
no,
but like you end up looking like Quasimodo and you're like
uh-huh.
trying to force the fabric through, go faster, no, it doesn't help, it just hurts.
Yeah, and especially if like I get really intensely into what I'm doing, like I clench, like my clench my
Uh-huh.
shoulders up, and or I'll have my neck turned at a weird angle because I'm like I have to look at it at a certain angle, which makes no sense. It looks the same no matter where I look at it from.
Yeah,
But
and then you got to like stretch your jaw.
yeah, I find myself clenching my teeth and scrunching my face, and
Yep.
yeah,
I actually have something under my desk. It's like one of those wooden rollers. It's like there's like 6 rollers on it. It's supposed to be to massage your feet.
oh
It's
yeah,
just so I can stim while I'm
oh yeah, for
working.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
It keeps me from getting too tight because if I can move my legs.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's something I noticed I do a lot when I'm well, when I was doing live streams for Patreon. I haven't been in the last couple of months just because of, all the recovery and all that.
Oh yeah.
But whenever I do live streams or whenever I'm recording video for, like podcasts or something like that, like I'm always stimming in some way. Like I'm picking at my hoodie string right now, and like I started recording myself singing a lot more recently, and I've noticed like either I point my camera at my computer so that I'm not on camera while I'm recording,
Mhm.
or if I do record myself, I look like I'm doing something horrible to myself under my desk because I have my hands under my desk, and I'm like, like fidgeting
twiddling your
away.
fingers and yeah.
Yeah, I'm absolutely stimming. I'm like tapping along to the beat. I'm doing like diva singing motions. So,
Oh yeah.
and I'm like, I realized that I was doing it, and I'm like, why am I hiding it? Like, I mean, I'm just doing these videos for myself
Yeah.
mostly. And if I get something good out of it, yeah, I might post it. Not likely, and not today, especially. God, do you hear me? I'm starting to sound like Mod Shot.
Or Roz,
Or
you know,
Roz.
from
Yeah.
yeah.
Mike
Um,
Wazowski.
well, we're about
Yes.
time to wrap up. So
Okay.
that's a fun note to end on. I'm
Yeah, I
watching
think
you,
so.
Wazowski.
Yeah. Yeah. I make lots of dumb noises a lot of the time. So
Yep,
it's fun.
I do
It
too.
makes life fun. That's
It
something that a
does.
lot of people miss out on in life is fun. So
Yeah.
I just prefer to keep things silly.
One of my favorite studio moments in the last 2 years since I moved home and moved my studio into my old childhood bedroom was I was dancing it out one day. Like a song came on and I was like, I can't paint right now. I have to dance.
Yeah.
And my dad came upstairs and my studio is like across the hallway from my parents' bedroom. And he didn't interrupt me. He just stood and watched. He just had this like really satisfied smile on his face. Like, because he told me one time, he's like, all I want is for you kids to be happy. And I must have looked really happy.
Yeah. That's awesome
And
though.
he never said anything about it. He didn't like sometimes he'll tease me if he catches me doing something really dorky because
Right.
I'm a big dork. But like he didn't say anything because he could tell that it was important. It was important that I
Yeah.
was dancing it out. He wasn't gonna say anything. He was just like, hmm, okay.
Well, you look like you're having a good time.
Yeah, if that's part of your process, do what you gotta do.
Right.
It
Yep.
probably explained a lot, actually.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's okay. Well, thank you for chatting with us.
Yeah.
With the royal us, the royal we.
Yes, the royal we.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Hoof. To view the complete show notes and all the links mentioned in today's episode, or to get a full transcript of the episode, visit hoorfpodcast.com. That's HOORF podcast.com. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you can receive new episodes right when they're released. And if you're enjoying our podcast, I'd love to have you leave us a review in Apple Podcasts. Reviews are one of the major ways that Apple ranks their podcasts, so even though it only takes you a few seconds, it really does make a difference for us. Become a patron. For $3 a month, you can support the creation of this podcast, pay my editor, and join a community of fellow caregivers out here just doing our best. Thank you again for joining me, Elle Billing, in this episode of Hoof. Until next time, be excellent to each other. Hoof is hosted by Elle Billing at Elle and Wink. Audio editing by Ricky Cummings at Ricky Poo. Music composed by Ricky Cummings. Hoof is a production of Elle and Wink Art Studio, all rights reserved. Hoof Podcast can be found on social media channels at Hoof Podcast, at HOORF Podcast.
Sorry, Ricky, you're going to have to edit my grunting out.